Sony with a particular focus on photography, but how does it compare to one of the most popular flagships around, the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra? While both are at the top of their respective games, there are key differences between the two that may sway your vote one way or the other, from the type of camera tech on offer to varying display tech to long-term software support. Let's break down some of the key differences on offer to help you decide which is best for your needs. For many photography enthusiasts, we pit the Sony Xperia 1V versus the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra in this comparison. Sony Xperia 1V versus Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra. Display: both the Sony Xperia 1V and Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra have top-end displays in their own right, with smooth 120Hz refresh rates, top-end HDR performance, and Gorilla Glass Victus 2 protection that should protect from drops on asphalt. But there's one area where the two differ: resolution. The Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra's 1440x3088 plus resolution certainly isn't to be sniffed at. In fact, we think it's one of the best all-round displays on the market in 2023, but it can't quite compete with Sony's offering. That's because, like Xperia flagships before it, the Sony Xperia 1V has a 4116x3840 resolution, one of the only smartphones on the market to do so. That means that, unlike with Samsung's option, you're getting close to true 4000 when watching 4000 content from the likes of Netflix and YouTube, and the 21:9 aspect ratio means you won't have those annoying black bars when watching widescreen Hollywood blockbusters. The Xperia 1V might have the higher raised display of the two flagships, but the Galaxy S23 Ultra has a trick up its sleeve in the form of a built-in stylus dubbed the S Pen. It pops out of the bottom left corner of the phone when needed, providing a handy way to doodle and make notes on the phone. It also boasts cool features like the ability to quickly make notes without turning the display on first, handwriting to text conversion for easy note sharing, and the ability to cut out segments of photos by tracing the subject with the stylus. You can even use it as a remote shutter when taking photos. It's one of the key features of the Galaxy S23 Ultra that make it unique in the wider smartphone market, and it's something that Sony's Xperia 1V can't compete with, lacking any kind of stylus support. Design and build. The Sony Xperia 1 Mark follows the same design language as several predecessors before it. The Galaxy S23 Ultra also does so, but the lineup had a big shakeup a generation ago when it adopted a more Note-esque style with the S Pen. The Xperia 1 Mark retains a lot of flat edges but no sharp corners. The Galaxy S23 Ultra has curved edges on its display, but it has sharp corners. You'll probably be well served with a good S23 Ultra case to ease out the corners. Both Samsung and Sony have adopted the typical glass sandwich design, with Gorilla Glass Victus 2 on the front and back. There's an aluminum midframe providing strength and rigidity on both phones. While the Galaxy S23 Ultra is smooth all around, Sony has chosen to add a bumpy texture to the glass back on the Xperia 1 Mark, making it feel quite unique. The aluminum midframe on the Sony is also ridged, adding to the grip on the phone. Cameras. The Sony Xperia 1 Mark has a unique main camera sensor, given the fact that Sony has an entire camera division with some of the most impressive DSLR cameras around. It should come as no surprise that the Xperia 1 Mark has impressive camera chops, including a rather unique setup for its main rear camera. The 52MP XMR-T sensor boasts a unique stacked CMOS with a two-layer transistor that Sony claims is twice as good as snapping low light compared to last year's flagship without needing a large 1-inch sensor like many rivals. That said, the sensor is 1.7x larger than that of the Xperia 1 Mark IV, and Sony's advanced computational photography allows it to take low-light shots on a par with dedicated DSLRs. That doesn't mean the S23 Ultra doesn't have an impressive camera setup, because it certainly does. Like the Xperia, it doesn't have a 1-inch sensor, but it doesn't stop it from boasting significant year-on-year gains compared to the S22 Ultra, particularly in low light conditions. It also has some of the best zoom capabilities around, with a 10x optical zoom and 100x space zoom. Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra primary camera samples. The ultra-wide camera performs similarly on both phones, with just a small difference in sensor size. Samsung Galaxy S23 ultra-wide camera samples. The telephoto is where things get a little interesting. Sony adopts two zoom levels on the telephoto, 3.5x and 5.2x, whereas Samsung uses dedicated sensors for a 3x telephoto and a 10x telephoto. Sony's trick with the Xperia 1 Mark V is offering 3 pro camera apps, 1 for photo, 2 for video, with a whole bunch of parameters that you can play around with. Samsung also offers manual photography and videography modes that are fairly hands-on but do not match the level of control that Sony offers. Sony goes one step further with a dedicated 2-stage shutter button that photography enthusiasts will appreciate. The true test for a tiny camera starts when the sun goes down. Sony does say that it worked hard to improve the low-light performance of the Xperia 1 Mark V. Overall, the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra should be the choice for users who want more of a point-and-shoot experience, while the Sony Xperia 1 Mark V should be preferred by enthusiasts who want the last bit of control over every image. Colors. The Galaxy S23 Ultra comes in 4 colors, including Phantom Black, Green, Cream, and Lavender. I'm partial to the green as it pops the most of all the hues, which is the model I'm testing, followed by the Lavender, which is subtle and elegant. I also like that the design does a fairly good job of resisting fingerprints. Xperias just look classy. This is further highlighted by their color options: black, platinum silver, and khaki green. We have the black one here, and it's very stylish and clean looking. Chipsets. The Xperia 1 Mark V was upgraded to the new Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 and as expected performs beautifully. A powerful chipset paired with a nearly clean Android software just results in snappiness through and through. It does help that the 120Hz screen makes the animations feel more responsive. Now, you are probably worried about overheating, as Sony phones have had an on and off kind of relationship with proper cooling. Well, we are happy to report that the Xperia 1 Mark V gets it right. In our normal usage, we couldn't spot any moments when the screen throttled down to 60 Hz due to heat. We were also able to record 20 minutes of 4000 footage in Video Pro with no dropped frames or hiccups. While the Galaxy S23 Ultra packs an exclusive version of Qualcomm's new chip called the Snapdragon 8 Gen for Galaxy, Samsung promises that this processor and deliver even higher clock speed than the standard version of the chip, going as high as 3.36 GHz. Samsung also promises the world's fastest mobile graphics in a phone. We've run several Galaxy S23 Ultra benchmarks, and the results are quite strong. In fact, the S23 Ultra beats the iPhone 14 Pro and Pro Max on graphics. In our Adobe Premiere Rush test, we transcode a 4000 video file to 1080p and time the results. The Galaxy S23 Ultra took 40 seconds, which is 7 seconds faster than the S22 Ultra. The iPhone 14 Pro needed only 26 seconds and the Pro Max 30 seconds. Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra battery life and charging. The Galaxy S23 Ultra offers the same high-capacity 5000 mAh battery as the S22 Ultra, but it looks like Samsung has made this phone more efficient through the Snapdragon 8 Gen chip. On the Tom's Guide battery test, which involves continuous web surfing at 150 nits of screen brightness over 5 grams, the S23 Ultra lasted a very strong 12 hours and 22 minutes in adaptive mode, where the screen can go up to 120 Hz. That's good enough to make our best phone battery life list. Even better, in 60 Hz mode, the S23 Ultra's battery lasted a superb 13 hours and 9 minutes. The Xperia 1 Mark V comes with a 5000 mAh cell, which is pretty impressive to think about while holding a phone that otherwise feels thin and light. Unfortunately, it doesn't result in a very impressive endurance. Our tests did stomp through that battery life pretty fast. With heavy smartphone usage, it can clock 6 hours of screen on time and still have some percentages left in the tank, up to 20%, but depends on what you've been doing to make it to a charger. However, we found that the Xperia 1 Mark V is great at retaining power when in standby, which really extends the realistic battery life while your phone is in your pocket, on a table, or by your bedside. It keeps the percentages from magically draining away. Sony Xperia 1 Mark V versus Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra, which flagship should you buy? The Sony Xperia 1 Mark V makes the most sense for photography enthusiasts and creators, as the company offers unparalleled control over the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra is the overkill flagship for the masses. It's the recommendation for people who want a smartphone that just works without needing their intervention. So both phones are best choice for users. It depends on your personal choice. After the review, what would you like to choose? For more informative videos, please subscribe Info of Tech.